What is up? Good morning, Chicago. Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast. I'm Aaron James, and this is your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about the Bears culture. We're going to talk what Ben Johnson has been saying, in effect, calling out the Bears culture, saying that practice habits ain't right, their attitude ain't right, their culture ain't right, and they aren't in the right place to be successful. Now, look, I think the first thing you got to say is we're week 3. We're 0-2, possibility of going 0-3, possibly even of going into the bye at 0-4, which would be an absolute disaster. But I think to some degree, Ben Johnson is correct. There are, I think, a number of players on this roster who are too used to losing, too used to sucking on a regular basis, that they don't know the winning culture. They don't know how to get that winning culture. And that's for Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, Dennis Allen, Press Taylor, all those guys to kind of try and bring across to those players and change the culture in Chicago. For too long now, this team has underachieved massively. And for too long now, as fans, we've suffered season after season of depression, season after season of just failure. And I think, look, we can all cite reasons for that. Ryan Poles, you can, which I don't want to particularly debate on this video, the whys and wherefores, the successes and failures of Ryan Poles, or the failures of Ryan Poles. But Ben Johnson has quite clearly shown that he is not a happy camper. He is not happy with the way the Bears practice. He is not happy with the way they apply themselves. There was some very fascinating comments as regards players without the ball in their hand and how they applied themselves, many feeling that was targeted at DJ Moore, saying that once, when DJ hasn't got the ball in his hand, he ain't interested. He does not want to play. He only is interested when he has ball in hand. I think there's some players that are absolved from blame on this one. You look at some of the young players that have come in. I think Roma Dunze has been absolutely fabulous at the start of this season. I think Colston Loveland also perhaps, absolved of blame. The guy has hardly been used. Cole Kmet to some degree as well. Cole himself even talked very similarly to the head coach a year ago, calling out practice habits, calling out the attitude of certain individuals within the Bears franchise. Look, there's a whole host of comments that have been made by Ben Johnson that are worthy of discussion and worthy of interest on this matter. Ben Johnson, obviously, he is trying to change the culture. He is trying to change the way the Bears think, the way the Bears play, and turn them into a winning franchise. I've seen some really cruel things on social media this morning, like it saying that what you expected, and a picture of Dan Campbell with Ben Johnson, and what you got, and a picture of Matt Patricia, saying that, Ben Johnson is the new Matt Patricia, the new Josh McDaniels, which I think is very unfair on Ben Johnson after only 2 games to say that he's going to become the new Josh McDaniels or the new Matt Patricia and fail abysmally as a head coach. But, the things that he's been saying, and these are some of the things that the guy has been saying. There were some plays yesterday that we weren't quite as pleased with that looked like on tape. So we're going to find out this week at practice who wants to practice hard and who wants to be a little bit more involved, and with the game plan here going into Sunday. Now, many people feel that this remark in particular was targeted at the likes of DJ Moore, who has been kind of singled out by a number of analysts and experts on the game, saying that, DJ Moore has very poor body language, has very poor work ethic, once he doesn't get the ball in hand. When he hasn't got the ball, he is, failing to apply himself, he's blocking, etc., etc. That is all things that he is being blamed for. Look, that's their opinion. DJ is a very talented guy, don't get me wrong, but these are things that have been leveled at DJ a number of times during his time in Chicago. And look, we're going to find out this week at practice who wants to practice harder, who wants to be a little bit more involved. And I think some people are saying that they're looking for the likes of Luther Burden, Colston Loveland to become a lot more involved this week, a lot more part of the game plan. We've hardly seen the 2 rookies used in these first 2 games. Colston Loveland, a guy who was drafted at 10, a guy who, has come into the league and he's already getting shade thrown at him, and he's already being said, oh, well, he's not Tyler Warren. He's not as good as Tyler Warren. Why did the Bears take him? They should have taken Warren. He's a better guy, which I think is exceptionally unfair, given the fact that Loveland has not had the opportunities to succeed, has not had the opportunities to be targeted, and You go back to some of the incidents during the Lions game, and if you watch Colston Loveland up close, the guy runs some pretty good routes, and times when he's absolutely wide open. And I think it was on the interception that if Caleb eyes come back and across, they see Colston Loveland, he's wide open, he throws to Colston Loveland, and he's pretty close to that first down. Yes, he's got a guy near him, but Colston Loveland is a big, strong guy. He probably knocks that guy over and gets that first down. But hey, I think that's probably looking at that aspect. Luther Burden, another one, fantastically exciting wide receiver, a guy who many thought would go in the first round, didn't. We took him in the second. Again, a guy with massive promise, not been used. Carl Manungai, again, a guy who I think, although a 7th round pick, looks to have good, exciting opportunities going forward. I think, we need to see more Carl Manungai going forward for this Bears team. He also came out and said this. He says, we talk about it all the time with the offensive players, that our fundamentals, our finish, on our technique, they need to show up in walkthrough. They need to show up on the practice field. That's how it shows up on game day. Simple things. How do we do it properly block? How do we catch the ball? How do we block after the catch? Ball security and things like that. Now, to me, personally, as a fan, sitting here, listening to my head coach talking like that about players, they're fundamentals of the game. They're games you should learn at Pee Wee football, at junior football, even flag football. These are things you should be learning in junior football, in high school, not in the NFL. You shouldn't be having to worry about properly blocking, properly catching, properly blocking after the catch. Guys getting involved and helping their teammates. That should not be something we are addressing in the NFL. That should be something that is fundamental within a player coming out of high school, coming out of college, and who is this targeted at? Who are these players, and I know Ben Johnson's not going to come out and name names and throw players under the bus. That's not his way. He doesn't. He wants to keep these players on side. If he comes out and says DJ is not doing this, or Cole is not doing that, or Dondre is not doing this, he loses those players. So he can't do that. But it is worrying that he is talking like this, and it's worrying that these things are still occurring going into week 3 against the Cowboys. These are things that pre-season, the off-season should have taken care of. We should not be in a position where we are worrying about how players block, how players catch, how they help their teammates by blocking after the catch. This is not things we should be concerned about at this point in time. And he's right, you need to show a level of professionalism, a level of commitment, not only in walkthrough, not only in practice, but on game day. And I'll tell you this, if you are sloppy in walkthrough, if you are sloppy in practice, you will be sloppy on game day. I haven't coached at any sort of high level in sport. I have coached, I've coached soccer, I've coached NFL flag, I've coached hockey, guys. And the one thing I always used to say to the kids that when I was coaching them is, practice as you play. Practice with the right mindset. Practice with intensity. Practice with heart and passion. Because if you don't, you won't take that across to the game. You practice with the same intensity that you want to play. You show the same intensity to impress the coaches. And if you're not doing that in practice, in walkthrough, how can you take that to the game? Ben Johnson is right. Now, the other comment that he came out with the other day, which I think caused some fans to go, "You're what?" and caused others to go, "Ben Johnson, you've lost it," and others to cause Ben Johnson to say, "What is he going on about? He's the head coach of the Chicago Bears." He said, "Our practice habits are yet to reflect a championship caliber team." Now, look, I ain't sitting here on Friday the 19th of September, 2025, at 9:30 in the morning in the UK and telling you that the Bears are Super Bowl contenders this year, next year, whenever. I ain't telling you that. I'm not telling you that we're going to win the NFC Championship this year, next year. I'm not sitting here and telling that. But what Ben Johnson is fundamentally saying is to become a championship caliber team, to be a championship caliber team, to be a team that contends, to be a team that wins in the NFL. You need to practice at the highest level. You need to have an intensity to your practice, a professionalism to your practice. And he's quite clearly not seeing that from the players at this point in time. And like I said, this is not about saying that Ben Johnson thinks that we should be a championship caliber team, that we should be a team that wins the Super Bowl this year, next year, whenever, or wins the NFC Championship. Just win the division would be a great start. But look, he's saying basically there that we need to have a more professional, more intensity, more heart, more passion, more professionalism about the way we practice. Because if we don't, it ain't ever going to get better. It ain't ever going to improve. And if you can't do it, then you ain't going to succeed at this team. Now, I honestly think that we are looking at a situation where, although we have spent time and money over the offseason bringing in players like Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dolman, Grady Jarrett, for example, drafting the likes of Loveland and Burden and Trapillo and Shamar Turner and Carmen Ungai, Isaiah Frazier, Luke Newman, etc., etc. We've spent obviously time renewing contracts. We've renewed the likes of obviously Jalen Johnson. Previously we've obviously given Montez Sweat a big. This ain't the finished article. This is a team I think that in 12 months' time is going to look very different to the team we see today. The team we see go out in week 3 against the Cowboys, I think in 12 months' time is going to look fundamentally different to the team we see today. And it's whether or not we have the people in the right places to rebuild that team, to bring in the right players to improve this team. Because at this moment in time, this defense is not cutting the mustard. It is failing on a galactic thing. 72 points, I think it is, or 73 points in the last 5 quarters of football, 674 yards in the last 5 quarters of football. An offense that isn't fully clicking yet. A running game that stinks to high heaven. So I don't think you're seeing a Bears team that is anywhere near where Ben Johnson wants them to be. Now, it's whether Ben Johnson gets the time and gets the patience to rebuild and to work to where he wants us to be, or whether he's gone in a year. That's a question. And I hope he gets the time to rebuild. But this is not a short-term project, Chicago. This is a long-term project. And things need to change. And it's not only personnel, but it's attitude, it's intensity, it's professionalism. And some of the players, I think, and even some of those established players, like the DJ Moores, the Tremaine Edmondses, who are not, I don't think, Tyreek Stevenson's, pulling their weight at this, Montez Sweat, pulling their weight at this point in time. DeAndre Swift, another one, may well be on their way out before we can improve and move forward. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on what we've covered this morning in this video. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you know what? I will catch you on the next one. As always, Chicago, been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for watching. This is the UK Bears. Bear down.